This is Real Estate This Week with Stephen Gasque, continuing 16 years on air and online, helping you succeed in buying, selling, and investing in property. The best real estate strategies out there just for you.
Welcome to Real Estate This Week. Hi again, I'm Stephen Gasque, and I'm so glad you're here as we look at how to protect your house as the winter approaches. We'll talk to a professional home inspector about how to make sure your biggest investment stays safe and sound this winter, whether you're up north or down south. Joining us now is Frank Lesh, a lifelong home inspector and the ambassador of ASHI, the American Society of Home Inspectors. Frank, welcome to Real Estate This Week.
I'm glad to be here, Stephen.
Frank, I am so glad you're with us. So tell me, after talking to you for so many years, I know you always consider fall maintenance to be one of the most important things any homeowner can do. Tell us, why is that a top priority?
Well, I'll tell you, a lot of things happen over the summer. We have trees growing, plants growing, animals moving around. But when the weather gets colder, of course, the leaves start to drop. The animals start to look for other places to live because they're not protected on the outside anymore. And so what's important for homeowners is to understand that before the weather gets really cold, you want to make sure that the area around your house is clear of debris, trees, shrubs, even grass. You want to make sure that you get your grass cut low so that when the winter weather does come, that helps to suppress the insects that like to live in the grass. But it's also important because by keeping your foliage trimmed away from your house, you don't allow the animals an avenue to get to your house because they want to be warm and the house is warm and that's where they're going to go. So by trimming everything away from your house to where you can actually walk between any shrubs, trees, flowers, walk between that and the house, that gives the animals no place to hide.
Excellent. And so, Frank, what we're talking about is keeping your house at its top possible value, because I know that all the troubles you just talked about would run down the market value of any home.
Absolutely. There's no doubt about it. Trees brushing up against your house tend to wear out the siding or even brick, the mortar. And so this is the time of the year when you get that stuff done, you can do the maintenance items like scraping and priming painted surfaces, maybe tuck pointing if you have brick houses. You want to do that before the weather starts to get to freezing because this is the time to do it. And it's nice and cool. Paint likes to dry when it's not really, really hot and humid. So it's just a good time to take care of those things.
So, Frank, let's look at the exterior of the home first, beginning with the roof. Now, if I want to make sure that my roof is ready for whatever the winter brings, whether it's a foot of snow up north or blazing sunshine down south, how would I get that roof in perfect shape?
Well, the first thing you want to do is you have to be careful. When we're talking about roofs, we don't want anybody to get hurt. So many roofs are not walkable. You know, you don't want to get up there and walk on them. So if your house is one of those, you may be able to look with binoculars from the ground, or you may be able to look outside of another window, maybe a second floor window looking down onto the first floor. Or you may even be able to have a ladder up on the gutters so you can look at the roof to see the condition. We want to look for cracked shingles, granules of that are wearing off of the shingles. If you have wooden shakes or shingles, you want to make sure they're not cracked or curled and cupped. So it's a visual inspection that you can do from the ground or from a ladder or maybe even outside of a window. But in order to check to make sure nothing has gone wrong during the summer, you may want to get up into your attic to see if there are any wet spots, any place where water has gotten in that you may not be aware of. It may not be so severe that it has come down into the ceiling, but it could be up in the attic. So you want to make sure that your roof is in good condition because that's where all the action starts.
And let's look at that, Frank. What if your roof is not in good condition? What can that do to your home?
Oh gosh. Well, obviously we rely on the roof to protect us from getting water inside. So it's designed to shed the water. Now, a roof is not waterproof. It's not like a boat. You can't have water standing there, or if the gutters are clogged and water starts to build up and cannot get down away from the house, it goes underneath the shingles. And that's where you can start to get mold and mildew. You can get wood rot. And then eventually it'll get down into the ceilings, and then you'll have interior damage to take care of too.
And Frank, I've also heard that one of the things that can damage your roof the most is not just the water, but the wind. Tell us about that.
Absolutely. Wind will sweep underneath the shingles. It always tries to get in. The house is under negative pressure. That means that the inside of the house is always trying to get air to come in. So when the wind blows, it wants to come inside. And if it gets underneath shingles, it can lift the shingles up, which can then damage them more. And that not only can allow bad weather to come in, it can also allow animals to get in. Raccoons, squirrels, they love to get up into the attic. And if they have an opening through your roof, they're in. And with winter coming, they don't want to get out because they have a nice, safe, cozy place to be.
And Frank, if I do discover a problem with my roof, what should I do?
Well, the best thing to do is to call a professional. Most repairs are way beyond what a normal homeowner can do. So I would recommend getting a qualified roofing contractor to come out, give you some estimates, get a few estimates because you never know. And if you have a friend or a neighbor who's used someone, I would look to them because they want to keep in good terms with the people in the area. So I would definitely get an exterior roofer to come out and take a look.
And now right down from the roof, we have the gutters. Frank, how do we know if our gutters are functioning properly?
Well, if you can see the gutters from the ground and you see debris sticking out, little trees growing or leaves sticking out, you know they're clogged. If you're capable of doing it and you feel okay by doing it, clean your gutters out yourself. You can do that. If it's just a one-story house, that's relatively easy. But if you have a two-story house, you want to try to look outside of a window that's maybe above the lower roof, and you can see if there are leaves and debris in the gutters. But if you can't, if it's a two-story house, you can't get up there, the next time it rains, look at the downspouts and see if water is coming out or if water is just pouring over the top of the gutters and falling straight down alongside your house. That's obviously an indication that there's something in there, whether it's leaves and debris. It could be a tennis ball, a kid's ball. Anything, any toy can get trapped up there, and that can clog your gutters. So you want to make sure they're clear.
Excellent. And so, Frank, now let's move down to the sides of the house. Whether it's siding or brick or wood, how do I know if that is okay?
Well, the first thing you want to do is walk around and look at the house from a distance. Don't necessarily go right up in front or within a foot or two of the house initially. Stand back a little bit. Get an overall view. Are there trees rubbing up against the house? Are there scratch marks on it? Maybe where a tree or a brush has rubbed up against it. Are there little holes in there? Maybe a woodpecker has been around and you didn't hear him, and he may be punching holes into the siding. Also, you want to have no vines growing up on your siding. It looks great to have ivy, you look at the Ivy League schools and you see all that beautiful ivy on the brick. That's very, very nasty as far as the maintenance of the home goes, because they can deteriorate the mortar joints and allow animals and insects to get in. So you want to keep that clear. So look at that from a distance. Then you can get closer up and see, is there peeling paint? Is the stain worn out? Is there mold, moss growing anywhere on the house? Those are all indications that you need some maintenance done before winter sets in, because we don't want the house to be deteriorating over the winter like it has during the rest of the season of the summer and spring.
Absolutely. And Frank, now what about all the windows and the doors in the home? Is there anything I should be looking for there?
Well, okay, from a safety standpoint, not just maintenance. Maintenance, obviously, you want to look for peeling paint, anything that looks rotted, and you can just take a screwdriver and if you see, or your fingernail, and just push it up against the wood. And if it sinks in, that's rotted. And so you want to get that repaired or replaced. But not only from a maintenance standpoint, but one thing you want to do is open and close your windows before winter sets in. Because if there's an emergency inside the house and you need to get out, you want to be able to open a window if you can't get to a door in order to get out to be safe. So make sure they open and close easily so you can do that.
I see. And Frank, I've also heard you say that if we want to keep our house really warm in the winter and keep the cold air out, that you should not only close your windows, of course, but also close and lock your windows because that provides a tighter seal.
Absolutely. There's no doubt about it. If you just look at your window, if you just close your window, say a standard double hung window, you lower it down, but don't lock it. Just look at it. Then when you start to turn the lock, you can actually see where the window compresses against the jamb. And that's what you want. You want as tight a seal as you can get.
Excellent. And Frank, what about the doors now? What about those jambs that you can put on the bottom of the door to keep the wind out? Are those worth it, or are they just a gimmick?
Oh, no, they're definitely worth it for several reasons. Number one, you hit it right on the head. The main thing people think about is a draft. Keep the wind from coming in or from the hot air in your house going out to the outside. The other thing, though, is it also helps to prevent insects to get in and animals and water, moisture, snow. The jamb on the door at the threshold is very important, just as it is around the perimeter of the door. When you close it, you should not see any light coming in from the outside.
Oh, that's really good advice, Frank. So you look at your door, and if you see any beams of light coming through between the door and the actual door frame, you've got trouble.
Exactly. That's exactly right.
Excellent. And Frank, now let's head down to the basement. Now, not everyone has a basement, but for those people who do, what should I be looking for there as I maintain my home in the fall with an eye towards winter?
Well, the first thing you can do, and everybody can do this up to a certain extent, is if you don't go down into the basement very often, go down there. And when you do, use your sense of smell. How does it smell down there? Does it smell, if it's just stuffy because you haven't opened a window, well, that's okay. But if it smells musty, then you probably have had some moisture that has gotten down into the basement. And think about this, the basement or crawl space is a hole in the ground. And anytime you have a hole in the ground, water wants to get into that hole. Things want to get in and to fill it up. So plus the fact that we mentioned earlier, you have a negative pressure inside the house. You're drawing things from outside in. That just lets water and moisture accumulate in the basement. And then because it's cool, it does not evaporate as well as it does, say, on the first floor where people are walking, opening, closing doors and everything. So if the basement smells moist and musty, then you have to take a closer look. Where's it coming from?
And Frank, if we find out where it's coming from and there's some sort of a leak, aren't we talking about one of the biggest expenses any homeowner can face? Securing the waterproof nature of their basement?
Well, it depends, Steve. If you have gutters and downspouts that are clogged and the water is just accumulating around the foundation, I guarantee you it's going to get into the basement. So the first thing you do, if you do smell that musty smell, go outside, look at the exterior of the house. Make sure that the downspouts are extended away from the foundation so when the water stops running, it runs away. It doesn't run back towards the house. Make sure that the trees and the foliage aren't up against the house because that traps moisture. So you want to have air circulating around the exterior. You don't want moisture to circulate around the exterior. That could be a very simple thing to take care of.
Excellent. And Frank, before we head inside, let me ask you about the walkways, the porches, the steps, the driveway. Is there anything I should be looking for there?
Absolutely. Starting with the driveway. When you pull in, if you have a car and you have a driveway, you want the driveway to be, if it's blacktop, you want it to be sealed. You don't want to have a lot of cracks in it to where moisture can get in there because it'll freeze and it'll expand and it'll pop and that'll deteriorate it. Same thing with the concrete driveway. You don't want big cracks. But the other thing is, especially with a concrete driveway, you don't want to form a trip hazard. As the concrete settles in one spot and comes up in another, you can have a trip hazard. You get out of your car, you're carrying groceries, or somebody comes over and walks and trips. It doesn't take much, but the number one cause of injuries around the home are falls, people falling and getting hurt. So make sure your driveway is smooth and not porous so you don't have water getting in. Then when you get to your sidewalk, same thing. Typically sidewalks are concrete, so you want to make sure that they're not heaving up or down, they're not settling, they're pretty much the same. When you get to the steps, which can be concrete, can be wood, you want the steps to be even, typically around 7 inches or so high. You don't want one to be 7, one to be 5, one to be 8. You want, there's a cadence we as humans like to feel when we walk. And if you start walking, and especially upstairs, you start to get used to a certain height and you get to a different height, you can trip. So again, you've got a fall hazard. Then if you have a wooden stairs, you want to make sure that they're painted or sealed so that water doesn't get in there and start to deteriorate the wood.
And Frank, now let's move inside the house. Now tell me, if we've taken care of the exterior in all the ways you just described, it sounds to me like the interior should be in pretty good shape. But, of course, there is the heating and air conditioning system. So, is there anything we should be doing with that as winter approaches?
Absolutely. Good time to check your heating system. When it gets a little cool in the evening, but you know it's going to be warmer later in the day, you still may want to turn your furnace on just to make sure it's okay. Make sure it lights and blows warm air out. One of the maintenance items you need to do, though, in order to get that good air circulating, is to have a clean furnace filter. If you have a forced air furnace, air goes through that filter to get cleaned, and then it goes through the rest of the house. If that filter is clogged, you're not going to get good air circulation. So you want to make sure your filter is clean. If you have hot water heat, steam, you want to make sure that the baseboards or whatever the radiators are clean and you don't have them blocked so that the air can circulate through and come out and radiate inside the house. Very important, whether it's forced air or electric or steam, hot water, it doesn't matter. You want to have air be able to circulate around the heating source.
I see. And Frank, going back to the furnace filter for just a moment, what if I put the furnace filter in backwards?
Well, it may cause the filter to disintegrate. It will. There's a mesh inside most furnace filters, and it's designed to go one way. And if it's backwards, you're not going to get as good filter cleaning as you would. And secondly, you could get some of the particles from the filter into the house. So it has to be in the correct way. And there's an arrow on the filter, and you want the arrow to point towards the furnace. That's the direction of airflow.
I see. And Frank, what's your recommendation on how often to change that filter?
Well, of course, it depends on a few things. Once a month may be overkill. However, if you have animals with long hair, you have a lot of children living in the house, and there's Cheerios falling down into the floor vents, and things can get really smoky and dirty. You have to change your filter fairly often. If you're really meticulous about keeping everything clean, maybe once every 3 months. But it's easy to check. You just pull the filter out and look at it and slide it back in. And always have a spare one there so you can look at the difference between the one you pull out. If it's really gray and the new one is white, it's time to change it.
And Frank, now a question for everyone listening to the show. Could we see a show of hands right now for everyone who changes their furnace filter every 3 months? Frank?
Yeah.
My hand's not up.
Yeah, you're right, Stephen. No, most people don't. They kind of forget about it. And then when they notice that there's either a foul smell or it's just the house isn't heating like it should, it could be nothing more drastic than a dirty filter.
Excellent. Frank, also inside the house, what if you have a home with ductwork? Should that be looked at? Should that be inspected? Or can you just forget about it?
Oh, it definitely needs to be inspected. And you can do a simple thing. Just if most of the covers if the vents are in the floor, just lift the cover up and look down in there. And you're almost always, I don't care how good of a housekeeper you are, stuff is going to get accumulated inside that vent because gravity forces things down. And when you sweep the floor, some of the sweepings are going to go into those floor vents. So a simple thing to do is just to take a simple vacuum cleaner with a hose and vacuum out those ducts around. You don't have to stick that in very far, just the surface area. Keep that clean. Now, if you really want to make sure that your system is in good shape, then you do need to have a duct cleaning service come in. And that way they would sweep out all the ductwork in the house. And if you get that clean and keep your filters clean, you can go a long time without having to do that again.
And Frank, as we know, you've been a home inspector for more than 30 years. But Frank, you also have a very specific related trade, which is inspecting people's plumbing and their lines going in and out of their house. Can you tell us about that?
Right, Stephen. So what I did, I formed a company to do sewer scans. So what I do is I go into a house and where everything in your house, all the drains, the toilets, everything go down into the main sewer line. And then that goes out. If you've got if you live in a city and you've got sewer systems, that's where it goes. If you've got whatever you have, you have a drain in the floor that goes out. What I do is I have a camera that I stick in that drain and I can scope it out, and then I take a video of what the sewer line looks like. And what I'm looking for is cracks, any broken tiles, clogs, whether they're tree roots or toys or debris that people have poured down their toilets or their sinks. And I have a video of that, and then I take that, and then I show it to the owner so that they can see what's going on inside their sewer line. Because it could be simply a matter of just cleaning it out, where they just go with a screen and they force it through there and they push everything through. Or if you have cracked pipes where the pipe has deteriorated, that could be a major, major problem. So you want to make sure that sewer line is clear.
So Frank, if I'm a homeowner, would I do that only if there was trouble? Or should I be proactive and have it inspected every now and then?
Well, most people will just ignore it unless it backs up. But you want to do it before then, because if it does back up, you've got a real mess on your hands. Because just think about everything that goes down your sewer line. So if you do it once, you wouldn't, and you don't have any tree roots. If you have tree roots in there, you may have to do that every year, just depending on how quickly the tree roots grow. Trees love to get into the sewer lines because that's where the water is. So if you don't have any trees or the line is clear, then maybe every few years. You don't have to do it every year.
And Frank, let's sum it up now. What would be your absolute best advice to any homeowner, either up north or down south, as we approach the upcoming winter?
What you want to do, Stephen, is use your senses. Use your sense of sight, your smell, even hearing. You want to listen to things. If something sounds funny, like your furnace or air conditioner sounds funny, or the plumbing system sounds funny, or something smells in the house, and you're thinking, why does this smell? That could be a plumbing problem, could be a mold problem. So your sense of smell, your sense of hearing is good. Your eyes, you can use your eyes to see if something doesn't look right. If it's warped or peeling or chipped, that's not the way it's supposed to be. Surfaces should be smooth. and meant to discharge water away from your siding, your windows, your doors. So using your senses are really good. If you want to go a step further, you could certainly have an inspection done by a qualified home inspector. They'll come out and check your house and look at things that you normally wouldn't even think of. And that's a relatively inexpensive cost that could go a long way to making sure that you don't have big repair bills in the future.
Excellent. And Frank, before I let you go, I'd like to ask you about your new venture, which is fascinating, in which you talk to the nation's auto workers, perhaps people who are retiring, perhaps people who aren't, but someday will. And you teach them how to have another career as a home inspector. Frank, tell us about that.
Well, Stephen, I was asked to do this because I love to teach. I like talking about homes and everything. And so they thought, hey, I would be a good person to go and talk to employees that are maybe, like you said, retiring, or maybe they want a different career, or even some that just want to know how their house works better than what they do. So I'll go with them and we'll go into a house and we'll go through it over a few hours, and I'll show them what I do as a home inspector and what they should look for. And it's great because it's an eye opener for people that just don't look at a house like a home inspector does. So it's fun. I think people enjoy it, and I enjoy it, and I love doing it.
Frank, that's awesome. And I really want to thank you for being on the show today and telling us all about how to make sure your home is A-OK as we approach the winter, and also telling us about your new venture teaching auto workers about what might be their next career as a home inspector. Thank you, Frank.
You're welcome, Stephen. Anytime.
Frank Lesh, a lifelong home inspector and the ambassador of ASHI, the American Society of Home Inspectors. Next time on Real Estate This Week, the year ahead. What will 2026 mean for you and the real estate in your life? Information you'll need, whether you're buying, selling, or investing in property. The year ahead is next on Real Estate This Week. And until then, I'm Stephen Gasque, and thank you for listening.
A brand new episode of Real Estate This Week with Stephen Gasque drops every Thursday, everywhere. And you're invited to listen, subscribe, and follow us. Just look for Real Estate This Week with Stephen Gasque. The best real estate strategies out there, just for you.